Good morning and welcome, welcome. I'm Rev Gy. Delighted to have you here. Welcome you there. I think we're on YouTube Live now, not Facebook Live. Although I will let you in on a little secret. I always share the YouTube Live to Facebook, and probably there's a way to do it anyway on the website, but we'll figure things out. So, thank you for coming. And I'm looking at Chris. And I think that's what a professional is, right? So, I worry about you, and still thank you for bringing us music. Oh, what a great evening we had last night, right? What did you think? So I'm on the stewardship committee. And I think it was Joe. Did you suggest the magician? Yeah, it was Joe. It was Joe's idea. And I thought, I don't know about that, you know? And then I thought, well, you know what? Let me just, let it be. See how it's going to be. And then if it sucks, then in my mind, I told you so. I won't tell Joe directly, but it'll be like, yeah, I knew it. But what if I'll be pleasantly surprised there was that 1% chance? Look at me now. Look at me now. So I'm a convert, a believer. It's good for me to just let go of my biases. Not easy, but good for me. Very hard though. Very, very difficult. Because I am hardwired for preferences, just like every single one of you are. And then I am also extremely influenced by my biases, like every single one of you are. And most of the times, these biases run underground. Like I don't even know how much, to what degree, in what ways they're governing my every single choice. So, when we believe that we have free will, I think I'm willing to replace that with bias. Because if we would be willing to truly check in with ourselves and figure out all our biases, we'd realize how very little free will, if any, we have. And that is an interesting thought. Now, okay. Today, I will be telling you two stories. The first story will be two-part. The second story will be one-part. And I think that both stories can hold some lessons for us. And they're all about biases, okay? And the reason I am talking about biases because the title is Global Swarming. And there's so many issues in this world that are very serious, especially today. And it's very difficult for us to solve them exactly because of our biases. So, first story is to show you how deep biases run. Okay? So, imagine this beautiful family. Father, mother, and I just picked a father, mother. It could be two mothers or two fathers. It's fine. Parents, two parents. Let me do this. Two parents, three children. Puppy, brand new puppy, beautiful, oh, just like that. And there's the kitty. So it's everything is there, right? They're sitting down, it's dinner time, they're having a lovely time. Lovely, lovely time. Big crash, somebody breaks into their house, terrible human being, and then the torture begins. And he tortures them all. And then rapes them. And then kills them. And then he even tortures the puppy, the beautiful puppy, and the kitten. kills them as well. Horrible. He's caught. He's sitting on trial. And the prosecutor asked him, "Why did you do it?" And he said, "The devil made me." What do you think? What do you think? Is he not a morally completely corrupt human being who then chooses a cop-out for his evilness? What do you think? What should happen to this person? Should be held accountable. Yeah. We should save society from this person, right? And him from himself. Like, he shouldn't be exposed to more human beings because, this is what he does. This is the two-part story. Who here is familiar with the story of Job in the Old Testament? God goes on a stroll with the devil. They talk. Hey, how are things going? God goes on about Job. What a guy. What a guy. He'd never deny me. And the devil says, I don't know about that. You don't know about that? Well, try him. Here, do it. So the devil takes his children, all 10 of them, one by one. Boom, they die. Job is like, oh my God, I just lost all my children, right? By the way, nobody mentions how the mother reacts in the story, just side note. And all children gone. And Job doesn't deny God. So God tells the devil, check it out. See, what did I tell you? And he said, I don't know about that. I think we can do some more. He says, okay, go ahead. So he loses all his wealth next. And then they talk about it, and he says, I don't know about that. I think we can do some more. And God says, oh, go ahead. And then these boils break out on his body, and he is miserable, and it's like his kids are gone, his wealth is gone, his status is gone, his health is gone. His friends come and say, deny God, like, come on. God's on trial. Why'd you do it? The devil made me. One, what do you think? What should happen? What do you think? Notice what's happening inside him. How is it that nobody says he should be held accountable? Why is it that we're willing to lock one up and worship the other? If it's not some tremendously deep running bias. What makes one a violent crime and the other one, a lesson? I looked up some comments, the story. I'm not the first one to tell the story. I looked up some comments online, and this is how people respond to it. Be careful with your questions because you don't know God's mind. He had a greater purpose in mind. That's why he did it. Notice the cop-outs that we create. So God can still fit in the picture that we need it to fit into. So we can still think that he is the Almighty who is worthy of our worship. Don't know about that. You see what I'm saying? So notice the biases. They run extremely deep. And our attachments to them are at varying degrees. If maybe we are some of us have never had a background, say in Christianity, the Bible. So then obviously this bias is like neither here nor there. It's just like a story and it makes sense. Like, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Like, they both should be locked up. Both should be treated the exact same way. These are equally heinous, thank you, heinous deeds. So yeah, of course, but if you come from a background where, you know, from child or from, depending on for how long you've been in that milieu, you know, then your bias runs deep, and then just notice the cringe. Notice the mental gymnastics you're trying right now to do to explain it away, to justify it. Why that one is okay and the other one isn't. So now, imagine that this is just one aspect of our lives. Then there are the other biases, like families. They have rules, don't they? Your families have rules. Some families eat at the table, some families don't. Some families eat together, some don't. Some, like, I just remember that when I grew up, when I went home, so if I left the house, the moment I arrived in the house, I had to take my shoes off and change my clothes into the home clothes. Those were the home clothes. And that was just the thing. Like, you didn't even think about it. That was just the done thing. And if you didn't do it, then what's wrong with you? You don't belong. My parents still do it. That was the rule. And I don't remember when I quit it, but I do remember that when I started not doing it, there was a thing in me, like, I'm going against something real here, going up against something real. And then I realized, oh, the sky didn't fall, the earth didn't swallow me. I guess I don't have to change clothes that often. Small rules, big rules. But even something small as this, I felt like a traitor. So small as this, I felt like a traitor. And what do we want to do more than anything? Is belong. So now you belong with a group of people who holds a value or a principle very, very strongly, yeah? And the value and the principle is that, you know, God created this earth, God will take care of it. What will you do to combat global warming? Really, what sort of steps will you take? And then, if somebody tells you that you should take steps, how easy will it be for you to take steps when you would feel like a traitor? It means that you are denying God. It's like you're questioning God's almighty power and capabilities. God created it, God will take care of it. See what I'm saying? Now, what if you belong with a group of people who believe that nations are there for a reason, and yours definitely should come first? How will you express yourself in the world? How will that show up in your words and in your deeds and in your votes and in your choices? And then, what if somebody says, no, that's not a good strategy anymore. The problems we are facing are global. No nationalistic leader has a solution for global problems. Can't. The solutions must be global. So it's okay for you to love your nation. You just must understand it can't always come first. Sometimes it can, and sometimes it cannot. How do you think that person will take it? How much resistance will they put up? Even though it's logical, to you it's logical because you don't have that bias. Also because you don't see that your nation, you clearly see that all nations are nations. Why should mine be above any other? Now imagine that there's another who says, marriage, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And there's two genders, period. That's it. God said so, therefore it is. And then you go and you say, well, actually, that is not quite so. Look at the animal kingdom, because we are trying to combat bias with logic, culture with logic. Never works. It never works. Look at the animal kingdom, chimpanzees, bonobos. Bonobos are just, rampant homosexualism among bonobos. Just all over the place. But it's logic against culture. And what is culture? It's bias. It's bias. It's preference. It's hard wiring for certain preferences. And I grew up in it, and it defines me. I joined a group of people. This is the values and the principles that they hold, and now they define me. I no longer free will. Forget about it. Forget about it. So, global warming. The issues we have are tremendous. And it's true. Like, I happen to see it very clearly, for whatever that's worth, because I am also hardwired for preferences and principles and biases. And I see it very clearly that no authoritarian nationalist leader can have a viable solution for the problems we are facing today. The problems are tremendous and they're all global. And because these are scary times, you know, when everything goes nicely, it's easy to have a democracy. When things are just, we have some problems. Maybe a little unemployment here, maybe a little, tiny little inflation, whatever. But they're not existential problems. Democracy works really well then. Because there's not that sense of urgency that we have to act now or else. But when the heat is turned up and democracy is messy and takes time. So the heat is turned up, then the instinct, the tendency comes up like, we have to find the savior, the one person who can get us through this. And it's wrong. That's an authoritarian leader. It's an instinct that cannot possibly serve us well. Not just us, but it doesn't serve the globe well either. So, be aware of the one who comes and says, I'm the one who has all the answers. Like, don't trust it. Engage your intellect and look at everything upside down, turn it over and look at everything that they say, that they promise or they don't promise, the overt and the covert messages, because it's serving an instinct. It arose from an instinct that is not serving us. So this is the time to truly double down on democracy, in my opinion. To fight that instinct of allowing the one Savior to emerge. Because afterwards, the regret is tremendous. And it's so much harder to get back to democracy once you lost it than to keep it when you have it. So here's the next story. I was a kid when I saw this, and I think I may have shared it with you guys before, but some of you maybe weren't here, maybe you weren't paying attention, which wouldn't surprise me. And some of you have started attending since, so I'm going to repeat this one story. I think it's worth it. So it's a Georgian. It was the Georgians from the country Georgia, not the state Georgia. Okay? They have a weird sense of humor. So it's this little skit, and there's this guy, and he's climbing up this terribly tall pine tree, and he's chopping down he's very busy chopping down all the limbs, right? And as he makes himself his way up there, and now he's up in the tip of the tree, way up there, not a single branch left. And he's holding on for dear life, and he is petrified to move. So he starts yelling, help, help, help. So the villagers hear it, and they all run, and they're standing there. Oh, what should we do? How should we? Oh, my God, we're thinking, help. He's saying, help, help. We're thinking, help, I can. And the wind is blowing, and it's very scary. And then the smart villager runs up and says, I got this. He got this, good news. So the smart one says, nobody questions, mind you, bring a very long rope. Oh, we're bringing a long rope. And then he says, okay, tie a weight on the end of the rope. And so we're tying a weight on it. Now he need to catch it. So they're trying, and finally he catches it. Well done. Now the smart one says, now tie it around your waist. Tie it around your waist. And he's tying it, and then he says, wait, it's not tight enough. So he said, it's not tight enough. So he's tying it, and now it's really tight. And then the smart one says, now you all hold the rope. We're holding the rope. Now pull. And the guy flies out of the very tall tree. And all the stunned villagers just standing around his body, lifeless body. And they're all looking at it. And the smart one says, I don't get it. This is precisely how we saved Joe from the well last week. So we learn to trust solutions. But times change, and new solutions are needed because the old ones don't fit the times and the problem. And it may seem simplistic, but it's so true. Like burning more fuel is no longer the solution. Even though the bedrock of capitalism is consumption, it's no longer the right solution. We have to shift the paradigm. You don't save somebody from up there the way you save somebody from down below. So the layout has changed. And we're slow to catch on and catch up that the layout of the world has changed. A new world order is needed. The reason we have right now a war in Ukraine and in Israel, and it's popping up around the world, and like I said last week, some say that perhaps we're already in the Third World War, is because the old world order has been disturbed. The old world order was something like this. After the Second World War, which shook the world, right? We've experienced evil at scales unseen before. So we came together as a global community and we said, never again. And then certain rules were formed. And of course, I'm not going to paint you a thorough picture, but I'll just give you some idea. NATO was formed. And it was that, we will protect each other. So one gets in trouble, we all get in trouble. We all go fight as one. Cold War had set in. And this is the world order that was created. A NATO against the Eastern Bloc, the Communist Bloc. Also, the US had this extraordinary navy. And they said, we will police for free all the routes, all the oceans, all the routes. We will keep the order. And you guys can go and trade. We will keep these channels safe for all the shipping to happen in the world. We will do this. And in return, we want for you, every now and then, to be a shield for us in some conflict areas. And that was the unwritten order. Then, some leaders came into this country who said, yeah, well, why are we doing this for the world? That makes no sense. So we started scaling back and changing our fleet. So now we no longer have the many small ships who could police these waterways. Instead, we have just really big ones who are more cumbersome, take longer to get to places. And so there's a lot more piratism going on in the world. The shipping routes have been disturbed. But we lost leverage. That was part of the world order. And we didn't just lose leverage in that area. We lost leverage when we said, we're no longer participating in the Paris Accord, and constantly started pulling back, thinking that we're protecting the needs of this, our nation. When in fact, we put in place all those other measures to have more influence on the world. And the balance has tipped. A new world order is needed. And it's not going to happen through nationalism. We have to think globally. Because the globe is warming. It's warming and swarming. And it's impossible to get rid of our biases. But it is our job to find out about them. And that, to realize that based on my bias, I know exactly how to rescue someone from a well, and I have no idea how to bring someone off a tall tree. So I am realistic about how I think, how I believe, and my capabilities. And that's a full-time job, to examine all that's within. Because by golly, it's impacting the without. And we impact it unconsciously. But we might as well do it consciously. And then to be able to have that collaboration to say, who is the best person for the job? And collectively decide who the best person is, but not by just instinct, but by interviewing, by truly assessing, are your biases fit for this particular problem? If they are, you're the person. If they're not, you're not the person. And nobody takes it that personally. Does that make any sense? But that requires a tremendous self-awareness and humility. And I see no other way. I see no other way. If you do, let me know. I see no other way. So remember, we're hardwired. We're all biased people. And we're willing to do mental gymnastics to justify our biases. Remember Job. Remember how you don't want to necessarily put God on trial? That's because of a bias. We all have biases. These biases, if we have maximum awareness of them, make us fit for certain jobs. Those are the ones we should busy ourselves with. And make us very unfit for some other jobs. And we should just humbly, with humility, step back and say, these biases define me. I can't do that. I cannot do that. I should recuse myself from this, that, and the other, but I'm well suited for that. And that is our job individually. Now imagine what your family would look like with that sort of awareness. This community, the larger community, the Supreme Court, this whole world, if we live with maximum awareness and humility and dealt with our biases. And so it is. Thank you.